Hello out there, we're on the air, and for the second time here in 2024, it is Grand Touring Race Day today on the west coast of the United States. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Rosamond, California for the second race of the 2024 season of the FlowMaster GT Championship, the NAPA California Grand Prix. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, lads of all ages, as welcome you to the Willow Springs International Speedway here, or Willow Springs International Raceway. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, lads of all ages, as we welcome you with live coverage on the North American Sim Racing Network to the Willow Springs International Raceway in Rosamond, California. And high above the track in the press box, my name is Trey Wright for the NASRN. 67 laps are on the docket for today's race around this 2.5-mile road course here in Willow Springs. And it's set to be a good one for our second race of the 12-race season. Remember, each of these races occurring once a month, so I don't go insane editing-wise with these, but it's drawn out throughout the entire year. We've got the Winston All-American Series going on. We'll probably have the MBCS going on, and potentially the WAS in the fall, but those are two different series. Let's focus on the one that we come into today after a fantastic race at the Daytona International Speedway. For Reggie Fogelman, who won the race for GT Le Mans, GT Daytona, the winner of that was Dustin Davis, and Reggie Fogelman starts up front here in that 06 Chevrolet Corvette. Here on the outside pole, beside him is Riley Sampson in the 36. And we'll go over the rest of your starting lineup in just a little bit. But taking a look at the point standings at the bottom of your screen, first with GT Le Mans, Reggie Fogelman is in front by 20 points. Skylar Taylor in second place with 100 points. Michelle Gavinou with 95. Zachary Fitzwater with 90. Sebastian Palmer with 80. And Riley Sampson with 70 or 80 points as well. He is tied for fifth place with Sebastian Palmer. We'll just make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, that is a tie for fifth place between Sampson and Palmer. But Sampson has the pole here today, so Riley realistically has 85 points once they drop the green flag. And then going into the GT Daytona points, Dustin Davis has a 5-point lead over Connor Monaco. After those two, we'll make it those three, was John Stewart was also in that three-way battle for the win in the Mike's Hard 2.4 hours of Daytona. Those three are the top three. Then you got Colin Bear fourth in the point standings. Then Michael Brown in fifth. Then Dylan Matthews, Tatiana Nagora, Daniel Bouchard, all the way down to Blake Bavillier. Well, actually, we put Blake Bavillier or Bradley Bavillier. It was actually Blake Bavillier in that number 11 car. But nonetheless, we got the points out of the way. We'll get the starting lineups in just a couple of seconds. But let's say we go. But what do you say, ladies and gentlemen? Let's go down trackside to get the most famous words in Grand Touring, just all of motorsports in general, to get this 67-lap show on the road, boys and girls.
Drivers, start your engines!
The engines roar to life on the pit lane here at Willow Springs. All 42 motors roaring to life, or roaring alive, actually, here on the service area. Your starting lineups for both classes on the left-hand side of your screen. Reggie Fogelman wins the pole for GT Le Mans, who's outside, or it's Riley Sampson who has the pole for GT Le Mans. Reggie Fogelman, too, is outside in the 06. Logan Williams, Michelle Gavinou, and Dano Georgi round out your top five. And then going back to GT Daytona, where it's Daniel Bouchard in that 8 machine, who's on the pole position for the Daytona class. Connor Monaco in second. Brooke Paquette, Tatiana Nagora, and Juan Rodriguez, the top 5 for the Daytona class. So as the field heads on to the back straightaway, about to pass the Juke Micronics balcony, we'll go to your race analysis at the bottom of your screen. Like we said, a 67-lap race around this 2.5-mile road course. Your pit window is going to be between 25 and 30 laps. So it's going to make things interesting with these cars pitting with less than 10 laps to go. And 14 turns make up the Willow Springs International Raceway. And this is the first race that we're doing GT-wise here at Willow Springs. And none of the previous winners at Willow are from the MBCS are here today. But nonetheless, the field will roll through turns 13 and 14. The sweeper coming into turn 14. And the Chevrolet pace car is about to make the hard right-hand turn down the pit lane, similar to Watkins Glen. It's down the pit lane. The field is through the Reese's restart zone. Green flag is in the air, and we are live here for race 2 at Willow Springs. Going through the rabbit's ears, we get a new look at our new ticker. Everybody able to make it through the first set of corners, but as they go past the balcony, this is where the trouble spot is going to be all day long, ladies and gentlemen. And through this corner, everybody gets through cleanly right now. Some spots of 3 wide, but everybody remains straight. Onto the Monroe Ridge. They're through the little hairpin or the little kink. And for the race lead, Reggie Fogelman to the inside of Riley Sampson. As they go through the sweeper as Fogelman slides up the track, and everybody is going to be doing that all race long as Sampson goes wide through the corner. This is where people are going to both gain and lose time as they come out of turn 14, but everybody remains straight. And at the stripe, it is Fogelman picking right where he left off from Daytona. And the Interstate Batteries Corvette is back out front. Back to GT Daytona. Right now, it is Brooke Paquette who leads. Right behind her in the one machine, Griffin Lynn. Daniel Bouchard has fallen back to 4th as he's under fire from Juan Rodriguez as they go down the back straightaway once again. But already we're seeing the GT Daytona and the GT Le Mans car splitting up as Nathan Staples, that's Dylan Matthews in the 8, who got a little loose going through turn 5, I believe that is. But he's able to keep it on the road as they were nearly 4 wide. Excuse me, that was actually Jaden Russell in the 8 machine. I got him confused with Dylan Matthews, who drives the 026 in GT Daytona. Since those guys got together in the Daytona race, Matthews last time by was 32nd. He looks to have fallen back a little bit more. Back up front for GT Daytona, GT Le Mans, and it's still a parade session as Michelle Gavinu and Dano Georgi looks like they got together, along with the 33 of Crown Jr. and the 9 of Colin Bear. Replay of that will be at the bottom of your screen. Nonetheless, it is Jim Vincent left, who's got the fastest lap so far in the 78. And it looks like Brad Stover was caught up in the accident as well. So a 5-car accident in the back, and it looks like they went off going through the balcony. But it doesn't look like anybody else is knocked out, but Colin Bear might be a lap down car if these guys catch him. But for second, Logan Williams to the penultimate position in that 6 machine. Didn't talk about him a whole lot during the Daytona race, but he's up here in second, but he's coming under fire from Riley Sampson down to the inside through the sweeper. Williams will lose that spot as Sampson will slide up going through the corner. Fitzwater and the 20 machine is this 30 machine of Blaze Zebratar will be forced down the pit lane. Contact between him and Daniel Voiles. I don't think it's going to be an illegal pit entry for the 3-car, but he'll come down the pit lane nonetheless in service. That Ace Hardware Jaguar. Close call there, as I thought Zebratar was going to hit the attenuator. But like I was saying, that was a close call between Palmer as more people are coming off the track back in Daytona. And your Daytona winner, Dustin Davis, is going to get turned into the outside wall, and Alex Lozano in the 43 will get caught up with the 25 of Michael Brown. So another accident in the back with GT Daytona. And Dustin Davis will not go back-to-back in the 72. A tough break for those guys. It looks like Nathan Buchanan was also off the pace. We saw a lot of those guys get off in that grassy section in turns 1 and 2. Meanwhile, Logan Williams has lost a lot of ground as for the lead. It's not a race in the North American Sim Racing Network without us missing a pass for the top spot. And you see all the tire tracks in turn number 1. Everybody getting on top of one another. And that's just the blessing and the curse that GT Daytona has to offer. With people just getting all tied up in the back there. But now Michael Brown, looks like he and Lozano will definitely hit the pit lane and repair their automobiles. But it's Riley Sampson back to where he started from in that top spot. Meanwhile, it's the 06 of Ribbleton under fire from Vincent Leff. Excuse me, that's Mike Vincent Jr. in the 78. I know Jim Vincent Leff drove that car in the 2.4 last year, but it's Vincent Jr., your Superflow Showdown winner over, funny enough, Jim Vincent Leff. It is Vincent Jr. who has found himself in the 3rd position as he nearly hooks the 06 of Ribbleton into the inside wall. And losing it is going to be Bradley Ream. He goes around. He nearly took out the 64 of Felipe Santos, and Ream will go around in the 40 machine and lose all the ground he gained. Apologize for some of the delayed calls on there. Still having to get used to all these guys and their numbers. It's been about a month since I last called a race for these guys. So a little rusty on the numbers, but it was Ream and Santos going around, and Ribbleton under fire from Vincent Jr., who, again, well, he was the fastest car on the racetrack, but he's going to lose the 2nd spot to Ribbleton. Logan Williams trying to mount a run on that 78, but again, it is still very early on in the race. We are only 10% of the way through this 67-lap race, which will be about an hour and a half in length. So they go through the sweeper for the 6th time. Aguirre Sato nearly getting turned under the inside of Seb Palmer. But as these guys continue to have their tires wear out, we're going to see these guys slip sliding even more as the GT Daytona cars will catch up to the stricken number 25 of Michael Brown. But Colin Bayer, he'll be the first lap car on the chopping block. I expect him to catch up to him in about 5 or 10 laps. But right now, 40 or 39 cars still on the racetrack, and 37 of them on the lead lap. It is Riley Sampson who leads the way in GT Le Mans. And then back in GT Daytona, it is Brooke Paquette showing the race lead in that 031. This is not nearly as interesting as looks like we had another pair of cars go around to the back. As right in front, that's the 88 of Josh Harmon going around through the balcony. Like I was saying, I'll retract that statement. We've had a lot of action here with cars going around in the back of the pack. But for the actual race itself, not a whole lot going on. For the actual race up front, not a whole lot going on. A couple of cars going around like they always do. But looking very similar to the start of the Daytona race last month, where it was all Roy Ribbleton to start off. It was Ribbleton for about the first couple of laps. Riley Sampson found that extra gear, and he is slowly but surely pulling away from that 06 machine, but lap traffic in the form of Colin Bayer coming up shortly. They're just going over the hill as down the back straightaway goes the 9. Bear, last time by about 5 seconds in front of everybody. He continues to lose time. We'll see what the interval will be this time by. I imagine it's going to be a lot closer as Caleb Rose trying to get down to the inside of Zachary Fitzwater, not able to just quite get there. And now it's only a 2-second gap between Bear and Riley Sampson. We should get a look at the wide shot here, just the gap between those guys, and it is rapidly closing, and now it's going to be 2 cars, which are going to be lap down problems for Riley Sampson. Nothing he can't handle. But early on in the race, you don't want to get caught up in an accident, especially with something stupid as a lap down car. You don't want to pull a Robbie Gordon. But hey, it's still early in the race. You still got a pair of pit stops to make. And we'll see if anybody decides to short pit. As Zachary Fitzwater gets out of the groove there on the outside lane. That'll open the door for Nathan Orman in the 4. Riley's got to be careful getting around this 9 machine. He won't catch him through the sweeper. That's good for Riley. He'll probably catch him going into turn number 1, but probably even sooner. Now you've got to pick between yourself and Ribbleton, as Bear will go 1 lap down in the 9. Next up is Daniel Voiles in the 56. I think it was Voiles who went around in turn number 13, as he's got some rear end damage in that Jaguar number 56. Ribbleton now catching the 9. It'll be a little tougher to get around him, and he's going to take the outside long way around. They're going to make contact, and Roy Ribbleton is into the wall. And that is exactly what I said you cannot do, and Ribbleton will take out the 2 and the 20. A jam up right in front of the rest of GT Le Mans. And Ribbleton going from second to the back end of this GT Le Mans field, and that held up the rest of the GT Le Mans so much that it's brought back in GT Daytona. But Seb Palmer was able to drive away, but he's got a little bit of damage to that 20 car, a ton of rear end damage to the back end of the 06. And just like we saw with Dustin Davis, a mistake early on in the race takes out the last race winner. And Ribbleton will go to the pit area for repairs in the 06. That also involved Eric Monaco in the 2. He's got a little bit of damage, but he seems to be running all right. And lap traffic already playing a huge role in this one. As the battle for second place heating up as Vincent Jr. tries to go the long way around the 6. Williams will have the preferred line going up by the balcony, but they got to be careful. Don't want to pull a Ribbleton going through that corner. Williams will now take second place away from Vincent Jr. These guys battling has brought in Fitzwater and Caleb Rose. But Riley Sampson, now no pressure from Reggie Fogelman anymore, as Fogelman will come off the pit lane with a little less damage than what he started in the 06. But nonetheless, more lap traffic for Riley Sampson to deal with, as we're about 10 to 15 laps away from the pit cycle opening up. In case you are just tuning in, it's been a wild start to the Napa, California Grand Prix from Willow Springs. Completely forgot to mention that we are using the winter layout of this track, looking a lot like how Sonoma does in the winter time. Not to toot my own horn, but I did retexture this track for a winter version. And as these guys run around here in the month of February, the vegetation is as green as grass, as they say, here in great Rosamond, California. I really wish they ran a California race in the winter here, especially at Sonoma. That place looks beautiful in the winter compared to how dead it looks in the summertime. The same thing here for Willow Springs, a grassy Willow International Raceway. And Riley Sampson has got a wad of lap traffic in front of him. Dustin Davis comes back down the pit lane, but it's Bear, Brown, and Voiles. A trio of stricken cars in front of your GT Le Mans leader. Before it catches up to them, we'll quickly flash back to GT Daytona, where it is still Brooke Paquette, but now your pole sitter for Daytona, Daniel Bouchard, up to second in the 8 machine. Not closing in on him just yet, so we'll come back up to Le Mans as Voiles goes wide. Michael Brown trying to get around the 9 of Colin Bear, and he's going to take himself out in the same exact spot of the track again. He'll merge with Vincent Jr., nearly took out the quarter panel on that 78. And Colin Bear is just going to be a moving chicane for the majority of this race. After being in the hunt last month at Daytona, it has been a hellacious start to this Grand Prix for Colin Bear in the 9. Caleb Rose has got to be careful getting around him. We'll see how Rose and Orman get around the 9 like we saw at Daytona all race long. Getting around the lap cars was pure chaos. And Bear is going to block the 4 of Orman. Orman's not going to be happy about that. He'll send it down to the inside. Now Owen Miles having to deal with the 9 machine in his path. Miles just trying to get around this mangled McDonald's number 9. Back up at the front, Riley Sampson is now caught up to Michael Brown. We'll see how Colin Bear does this time, going through the corner, and he's going to almost take himself out. He is going to take himself out 3 straight times going through the Budweiser or the Juke Micronics balcony. Colin Bear has pulled a Noah Gragson and has not been able to have any luck going through that corner. But up front for Le Mans, going through the sweeper and trying to get around lap down traffic is like dancing with a chainsaw, and Riley Sampson is trying to perform open heart surgery. Almost gets in the back end of Michael Brown, but both of those will keep it straight. And Sampson looking like the class of the field so far, but as we approach our first set of pit stops, Brown goes a little wide through the corner, but Sampson will get around the CarQuest 25 with ease. Vincent Jr. still in second. Now it's Daniel Voiles with a lot of rear end damage in the 56. But then it'll be Roy Ribbleton and Brad Stover. Haven't caught up to the 33 yet. And that's pretty much everybody who is on the chopping block when it comes to being a lap down. Josh Harmon, who went around, he is in danger of being lapped by Brooke Paquette, who's under fire from the 8 machine of Daniel Bouchard, excuse me. Bouchard, the pole sitter, trying to get around Paquette, a development driver for Bradley Ream. Ream was spun around in the early stages of this one by Felipe Santos. He is currently, I don't see Bradley on the track. He may have been caught up. There's Bradley in the 40 machine. A couple of spots behind Brooke Paquette, in fact. As Ream was trying to get to the inside of Nagora. Again, being spun around, but we're closing on that cycle of pit stops, so we'll see if Ream decides to try and stay out and take advantage of the track position. But the window opening in the next 10 laps. But Riley Sampson continues to cruise around as Brown is going to force Vincent Jr. to take the high lane. He goes off the track and is in the sand. Logan Williams now on the rear end of Vincent Jr. going through the kink. Again, this is a very narrow racetrack. And lap down traffic is going to be a factor all race long. It has already come into play, and it looks like Colin Baer's day has finally come to an end. And Brooke Paquette's day has also come to an end as the GT Daytona leader is out of this one. And Daniel Bouchard will take the race lead away, and you got to think, was it in the Juke Micronics balcony corner? You'll view it down low as Monaco gets roughed up by the 72. But Colin Baer affecting both classes. And finally, the moving chicane will be put in the garage area. But unfortunately, taking out Brooke Paquette with him. And we could see another similar incident between Michael Brown and Vincent Jr. The Mike and Mike battle here as they go through the balcony corner, which has been Calamity Corner already through this race. 3 wide for second as Vincent Jr. is split between Brown and Williams. 3 wide through the kink. Williams is going to have the run to the inside. Side by side for second. It looks like Vincent Jr. will have the run. He'll have a little bit of drafting help there from Michael Brown. But to the inside of Vincent Jr., Williams has got to be careful he doesn't slide up into the 78, especially on these used BF Goodrich tires. But a nice slide job, as Dale Jr. would say. And it looks like had another incident there. Actually, that might have been from the Bradley Reams spin. It turns out it was, I think it was Paquette, who's turned around through turn number 3 with Colin Baer. But nonetheless, it is Sampson and Bouchard, a couple of stalwarts from the Mission Barbecue Cup Series, who are leading in their respective classes, and it looks like Matt Lagasse and Ryan Durrani were caught up. Both of those cars extremely slow, and they are right in the racing groove. It'll be easy for Sampson to get around both of these cars, a little bit harder to get around Durrani. Williams and Vincent Jr. are going to have to take the outside lane around the sweeper. This could get a little sketchy, and Logan Williams is going to run to the back of Durrani and send him around to the outside wall. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of damage to the 6 car, but at an aerodynamic dependent track like this one, that is not what Logan Williams needed, and he will lose second place back to Mike Vincent Jr. So the chaos is all around us, and we are not even at the first pit cycle. This is a lot what I expected the Daytona race to be, and it turns out we had to wait a race for the early stage chaos to finally find us. Connor Monaco under fire from the 40 of Bradley Ream. Ream has got a faster GT Le Mans Corvette, so he is going to try and easily get around this 21, but I think Monaco is hoping that Ream will push him up to Daniel Bouchard. And he is gaining ground on the 8 car, but I think Ream is going to try and take the outside lane. No, Monaco is going to slide up in front of Bradley. I think Bradley will have the inside lane going through the kink. Will have the run off the corner. These two still side by side. But now that straightaway speed out of that Boston Red Sox 40 is going to propel Bradley to get past Connor Monaco. And Paquette is actually going to come back out on the racetrack right in front of Nathan Stapleton. Nearly gets run over right as she comes back out. But Paquette's race is done. She is 3 laps down. And also back at the front. Wait, that is the 056. They got caught up in an accident. That was Micah Knapp. Had a little heart attack there, as I thought it was Daniel Voiles and Riley Sampson who got tied up with one another. But it was actually Micah Knapp who was involved in an accident as well. A lot to go over at the halfway break. We are going to have a halfway break since I don't know if this race will go an hour and a half. So we'll have a halfway break. We'll go to commercial for a second. And then we'll have the second half of the race. Halfway break will be at lap number 30. Once the pit cycle ends, so about lap 35, we'll have the halfway break and then get you the second half, mostly because I want the replay of this race and I don't know if it's going to stretch an hour and a half. Right now we're at 30 minutes and we've run not just under a third of the race thus far. But back in the realm of GT Le Mans, Logan Williams under fire from the Toyota of Caleb Rose. Rose, one of 2 Toyotas in this Le Mans field. Actually, no, I think he's still a Jaguar. I think it's just Roberto Crown Jr. who is the Toyota. Yeah, Caleb Rose is a Jaguar. But he has gotten around the 6 of Logan Williams. So Logan Williams on this pit stop. And right now he is going to come in. Same with Seb Palmer. So the pit window opening up a little bit earlier for a couple of these guys. And they're going to try and short pit. Coming in at lap 22. They'll be able to do about 30 more laps to get them to about just shy of lap, or just over lap 50. So about lap 52, between 47 and 52, and that should get them to the end of the race. But now with the cycle beginning to open up, we'll see what the leaders do. Palmer comes off, same with Williams, a 14.33 second time for the 6. Now Palmer with a very slow stop in the 20. Again, pit stop time. Your stop times do matter, and right now, the fastest time for GT Le Mans is 14.33. Blistering fast time there for Logan Williams, especially given that he had to repair some damage. So if he didn't have to repair the damage, that would have been a phenomenal stop for Logan Williams in that 6 machine. It's Blake Bavillier down the pit lane. Here comes Fitzwater, Owen Miles, and Nathan Ormond. Eric Monaco will duck onto the service area as well. And same with the majority of the GT Le Mans cars that got caught up in that little slowdown with Colin Baer and Reggie Fogelman. We'll follow along with Zachary Fitzwater, the all-time winningest driver in NR 2003 offline. Again, a 4-tire pit stop for all of these guys. And off the jack, it's Owen Miles. It's Owen Miles with a 14.22 second time. So Miles right now with the fastest stop. And he almost got run over there by Logan Williams, who's got the fresh rubber. Back at the front. Again, this pit window. Again, they can do about a max of 30 laps. So I imagine Riley Sampson will probably come down either this time or the next time. And it looks like Sampson will be coming down the pit lane this time. Same with Vincent Jr., Caleb Rose as well. I imagine Aguirre Sada will come down too. Yes, he does. And it looks like the rest of the GT Le Mans field coming down the pit lane. And the GT Daytona cars will be coming down as well. Following with your race leader. Again, seeing what his pit stop times will be as the rest of the Le Mans cars hit the pit lane. 4-tire pit stop. Vincent Leff is the first one off the jack. A little bit of a slower pit stop there for Riley Sampson. Not quite enough to be the fastest. But here come the leaders. Zachary Fitzwater with a boatload of steam down the front straightaway. But I think Riley Sampson and the overcut are going to work the best. Logan Williams, that team definitely repaired the damage. He is coming pretty hard in that 6 machine. And we go back to the GT Daytona crowd. There's Griffin Lynn. And Daniel Bouchard comes off the pit lane. 15.08 second time. Slow stop for the GT Daytona leader. I believe Connor Monaco should be the Daytona leader now. But Riley Sampson not missing a beat there. Didn't even concede a lap, but Mike Vincent Jr. had a much faster time than Sampson, and Vincent Jr. has got a boatload of steam going through 14. Those two might get together here. It's a little close, but they're able to save it as Blaze Zebratar. Remember, he was forced down the pit lane, so he had to come early. He is running 4th right now, and I'm a little surprised Zebratar didn't try to come in with the rest of the GT Daytona or GT Le Mans cars, since he's still up here. But for the lead, Vincent Jr. able to get around the 36. Whatever Vincent Jr. was able to do on the pit lane, whatever adjustments he was able to make, it was worth it. And Mike Vincent Jr. out front. Our 3rd lead change so far in GT Le Mans. And then for Daytona, as Owen Miles has gone around, same with Logan Williams. 2 of the faster cars in GT Le Mans. Looks like they went around off the balcony corner. I don't think anybody else was involved in an incident. We'll play it down below. But another tough break for those Le Mans cars. And another couple of sacrifices to the garage area. 34 cars on the track, 31 of them on the lead lap. And Owen Miles is destroyed. But it is going to be Connor Monaco who's got the race lead, and now Zebratar will come down in the 3 car. But it's Monaco who led the majority of the race in GT Daytona at Daytona. And I imagine that 21 had a pretty fast pit stop. It's not the button I wanted to press. I wanted to get to the chat. My mouse will work. I'll try and see what Monaco's pit time was in the 021. I think Monaco had an undercut of 14.97. I believe that is the fastest GT Daytona time so far, and it's translated well onto the track. But nonetheless, it is still a 2-car battle for this Le Mans lead, but we still have plenty of time to go. And another pit stop before the end of this one. But tough break for both Miles and Williams in the 6, especially for Logan Williams, who started up front. Had a good chance here today. And especially for Owen Miles, he had a very bad fast Corvette. But it won't be him or Williams go into victory lane here today. Caleb Rose is 3 seconds back, but still 50 laps to go, or 40 laps to go, in fact. Here from Willow Springs. Again, it's been a good one so far. And we'll do a full field rundown right now. It's Vincent Jr. who leads for GT Le Mans. 2nd is Riley Sampson. Caleb Rose runs out the podium. 4th is Fitzy. 5th is Orman. 6th, the Girasato. 7th, Monaco. 8th is the 45 of Skylar Taylor. 9th, Felipe Santos. And rounding out the top 10 for GT Le Mans is Nathan Stapleton. 11th is Jaden Russell. 12th, Sebastian Palmer. 13th, as it looks like the 40 of Bradley Ream got tangled up there between him and the 06. Those two swapping 13th and 14th. And now, first for GT Daytona is Connor Monaco. Then you've got the 08 of Daniel Bouchard, Daniel Voiles between those two. Tatiana Nagora, the final podium position in GT Daytona. Then there's Griffin Lynn. Side-by-side battle between Blaze Zebratar and Juan Rodriguez. Dylan Matthews there for GT Daytona. Same for John Andrews. Igor Barreto making strides in that Valvoline number 14. Michael Brown, who's been caught up in a couple of incidents, currently running in the 32nd position. Brooke Paquette, who is 3 laps down, currently in 34th. Dustin Davis, the Daytona winner, as Buchanan and Bavillier nearly got tangled up. And then rounding out the rest of the field is going to be Brad Stover, who is under fire from the GT Le Mans cars. Voiles is going to come back out on the track after coming down the pit lane, and he will be a little slow in front of the Le Mans leaders. So it'll be Voiles, Stover, and the 33 of Crown Jr. who are on the chopping block when it comes to lap down traffic. And much of this is the same as the battle for second heats up. Nagora passes Bouchard for second in Daytona, but much like the Daytona race for GT Daytona, Connor Monaco out front and in his own zip code in that Harley-Davidson Mustang. A good run for him. Another good battle up front, but Vincent Jr. continuing to widen his gap between himself and Riley Sampson. Sampson with a little bit of a good run going through the sweeper. But as Vincent Jr.'s got to navigate lap traffic, Michael Brown down the pit lane, so that's one less car that Vincent Jr. is going to have to deal with. But as we approach the midway point through the race, we will watch Vincent Jr. cut through the field. Starting off with Daniel Voiles and Brad Stover, I imagine that Jr. will catch up to Voiles, or Stover rather, before he catches up to Voiles, since Voiles has the faster car for GT Le Mans. Or these guys could just take each other out in the Budweiser balcony, or the Juke Micronics balcony, and we won't have to deal with it. Stover all over the front end of the 56. Again, both of these cars being involved in incidents have rendered them out of the way, or out of contention when it comes to the actual race itself. But now everybody really starting to spread out in GT Le Mans. Same with GT Daytona, as Monaco has got a 1.5 second lead, or a 3 second lead. I was actually looking at the intervals between Griffin Lynn and Juan Rodriguez, down for 19th and 20th. But it's a 3 second lead for GT Daytona for Connor Monaco. And the lead is still at 3/4 of a second between Vincent Jr. and Sampson. But they cannot quite catch the 56 and the 066. Now Voiles will get around the 66. And Vincent Jr. will finally have an opportunity to put Brad Stover a lap down in that Rain X Dodge. But as of right now, you got Corvettes running 1-2. Third is a Jaguar, then another Corvette, another Corvette, another Corvette. I think we've only got 3 Jaguars in contention. I think it's just 4 Jaguars still on the track as Dustin Davis hits the attenuator. Oh, well, 5, including Daniel Voiles. So it has been a Jaguar junkyard at Willow Springs this afternoon. Only 5 of the 12 that entered the race. Actually, I believe it was actually 8 who entered the race. Yeah, Jaguar doesn't have a lot of entrants here for GT Le Mans, but it could be a Corvette taking themselves out, as Vincent Jr. got a little hairy there getting under the lap car, but He'll get under Brad Stover as they go up to the balcony corner with ease. It's another pick there as Stover trying to have a counterattack on Vincent Jr. Trying to get his lap back, but it's coughing baby versus nuclear bomb there, Brad. I really don't know what else to tell you. As now it looks like the chaos has quelled just a little bit now that we're spread out. We've got the pit cycle underway. And as the tires really start to wear, you know, you gotta think, these guys came in at around lap 20. Could they come in at 40 again and have to come in again at 60? I imagine they'll be able to stretch it. I imagine they'll come in about 20 laps at around lap 50 and change. You know, that's what we expect. But if you've been watching content here on the North American Sim Racing Network, you learn to really expect the unexpected. Especially in an environment like this one. Actually, I am hearing from the network CEOs that we are not going to do a full break. Actually, no, we are. My apologies. Just to make sure that we have all the content stored, especially from that first lap, or second lap, actually, just to cover our bases, so we'll have a 30-second commercial break. Really, just to save everything. To make sure nothing is deleted. But Vincent Jr. widening the gap between himself and Samson. Riley has not been able to stage an attack on Brad Stover, and that time by another 0.2 of a second faster is the 78 over the 36. Samson does still have the fastest lap for GT Le Mans, but still closing in on that 66 and passing him has been a challenge. Back to Daytona, again, nothing really to write home about. As Monaco continues to lead, Nagora behind him by 3 seconds. Actually, it's a little under 3 seconds. Should be about 1.5 seconds, actually. It's about 1.5 seconds. 21 running. He ran a 40.90 flat last time by, and Nagora ran a 42.47, so that's about 1.5 seconds. So Nagora is coming. We'll have to check back on that, as finally Riley Sampson able to get around. As Nathan Buchanan will go down the pit lane. Sampson able to get around Brad Stover. But it doesn't look like Vincent Jr. is going to pass or going to put a lap down anytime soon. It looks like Connor Monaco has got a good distance over Nagora, so it doesn't look like we're going to have any passes for the lead anytime soon. So before Samson or Vincent Jr. gets to Bavilliers, we'll step aside here for just a brief couple of moments. You are watching the NAPA California Grand Prix here for the second race of the FlowMaster GT Championship on the North American Sim Racing Network.
God damn it! Beep, 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 beep. We have issues.
And we return to the Willow Springs International Raceway, working on lap number 36 of 67 here for the NAPA California Grand Prix. Trey Wright alone and myself in the booth here for the second race of the FlowMaster GT Championship here on the North American Sim Racing Network. We'll try and have Alex Graham in the booth for us for the next race in March at the Papyrus Motorsports Park. I personally am psyched for that race because it's a little different. It's not really an endurance race. It's more of a super speedway race with pit stops in it. But nonetheless, 33 cars still on the racetrack, 26 of them on the lead lap. And speaking of lap down traffic, Blake Bavillier in the number 11 car, under fire from the GT Le Mans leader of Mike Vincent Jr., who's trying to get the most laps led bonus. Riley Sampson currently holds it right now, leading 20 of the 36 completed laps so far. But Vincent Jr., if he stays where he is, could have a good shot of getting that honor. And again, getting those 5 extra bonus points. And we are going to have another set of pit stops, so another opportunity for everybody to beat the pit times. Owen Miles right now has the fastest pit time for GT Le Mans, but he's out of the race, so he does not need, so he cannot put down a faster time. But right in front, Blake Bavillier right in front of Mike Vincent Jr., the leader. Bavillier caught up in an accident. Jr. trying to go the long way around that ABC supply. Number 11. I'm trying to remember what it's a Dodge. Yeah, Dodge Viper. That's what they're called. Trying to get around that AB supply Viper. He'll do it. Not quite cleared him yet. He will. And Vincent Jr., no, knock on wood, he has been really good navigating through the slower traffic. Now it's up to Riley Sampson to get around this 11, and the battle for the final podium spot. Zachary Fitzwater's got the Jaws theme playing on Caleb Rose. But Vincent Jr. still has not been able to pass this 56. And I think Voiles doesn't have too much rear end damage. You know, he's got the wing bent at a really bad angle, but it's not affecting his aero enough to where Vincent Jr. is able to make a clean pass. So he's really been the Sherpa of leading Jr. through this lap traffic, and another trio of cars coming up. One of them, Roy Ribbleton, who was the dominant car early on, started on the outside pole, led a couple of laps, but was caught up with Colin Bear right before the pit stop started, or way before that, back when this race was in the single-digit lap counter. And then it's not been the race for your Daytona winner that he has wanted to have today, currently sitting in 24th. So realistically about 13th or 14th when it comes to GT Le Mans. Fitzwater is coming though. This time by under the stripe for the 39th time. Fitzwater about 0.4 of a second off from Caleb Rose. He is a little bit faster than Caleb. That time by Caleb Rose, 1:13.500. Zachary Fitzwater about 10th faster. So he is coming. We'll see if Fitzwater is able to get a good jump on the pit lane and potentially be in contention for this race win. Sampson gets around Bavillier, and he's trying to take advantage of the fact that 78 has not been able to get around the 56. He is closing in a little bit. Sampson has closed the gap by about a half second. But it has been 20 laps since the Le Mans leaders came down the pit lane. Nobody on the service area right now. We'll see if they decide to short pit again. Nobody coming down this time by for Le Mans at least. We'll go back to Daytona, where Monaco still has a pretty sizable lead over Nagora. And this has been a good couple of races for Connor Monaco. You know, you go back to Daytona, he finished second to Dustin Davis, and now he's trying to improve that position by 1 point. Fastest time right now for GT Le Mans, or GT Daytona, is actually going to be Griffin Lynn, of all people. Back up at the front. Still a 1 second lead for the 78 over the 36. But now they're catching up to Brooke Paquette, a much slower Dodge Viper for Daytona. After her, they'll catch up to Reggie Fogelman, and then finally the 33 machine of Roberto Crown Jr. But Paquette is going to be the biggest issue of them all. Before he catches up, Fitzwater that time around as Rose gets held up by Bavillier. Fitzwater lost a little time to Caleb Rose there, so Caleb able to find some extra pep in that Vodafone Jaguar. Paquette very slow through the first couple of corners, through that rabbit's ear section. Going through the Juke Micronics balcony for the 41st time. And this is really where Vincent is going to lose time, and Sampson has got to have a flying lap. He might not even need a flying lap as Voiles gets held up by Paquette, and in turn is going to hold up Vincent Jr. Both of these cars on used rubber. And that gap is going to be under a second between Vincent Jr. and Riley Sampson. Voiles was able to get around Paquette. They'll get through the sweeper, and I imagine Vincent Jr. will try and pass the 31 machine through Castro Corner. And Dustin Davis with a bunch of front-end damage, along with Igor Barreto. We'll focus on this before getting the replay down below, but Paquette right in front, holding up that 78. Vincent Jr. giving the chrome horn to Paquette, trying to get around her. He's at the quarter panel. Paquette will have the inside lane for a transition, but Vincent Jr. will have the inside going through the balcony corner, but here comes Sampson to the inside. He's gained a ton of time on Vincent Jr. He might have an edge going through the kink. He's going to have it to the inside, side by side for the Le Mans lead. Vincent Jr. with the good straightaway speed there. But the battle is back on, and I think these guys are going to stretch it to lap 50 to make this a 2 pit stop race. Oh, Sampson had a great opportunity to catch Vincent Jr. Mike's a little bit slow, but he's got that straightaway speed, and he is starting to pull back away. At the stripe, Sampson was able to close in by about 1/10 of a second. Fitzwater on the back bumper of Caleb Rose, too. As we close in on 20 laps to go, and Seb Palmer is down the pit lane. I believe this should be a scheduled stop for Palmer, so the window's starting to creep open. It's been 23 laps, and we are right at the numbers for these guys to make it if they're able to stretch it to 23 laps. But if I'm your Le Mans leaders, if I'm Mike Vincent Jr., if I am Riley Sampson, I'm trying to stretch it as far as I can. I'm thinking lap 50 to lap 51 is probably the magic number to finally come down the racetrack or come down the pit lane. You know, service your car, you know, maximize your fuel window, maximize your stop time. And now Zachary Fitzwater is actually going to come down. Same with Connor Monaco. So the pit stop window opening for GT Daytona. And everybody is going to come in. The Daytona car is already coming down. That time by for Monaco off the pit lane. Monaco, the 14.97 pit stop time, will follow along with Zachary Fitzwater again. And see what he is able to do. Off the jack. Actually got to go down here for the actual times. 14.31. That'll give Fitzwater the fastest time on the pit lane. And it looks like Connor Monaco will probably retain the race lead for GT Daytona. Meanwhile, for GT Le Mans, you know, Vincent Jr., both these guys did the overcut. I imagine they'll do another overcut here. Vincent Jr. not really catching up to the 56. We'll see if Caleb Rose ducks down the pit lane. He does not. Bavillier will come down. Nathan Stapleton will come down, as it looks like Skylar Taylor is the first GT Le Mans car in line that has come down the pit lane. And Skylar Taylor, you know, once this thing cycles out, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Skylar Taylor in the race lead for Le Mans. You know, these guys might be staying out a little bit longer than they would have wanted to. You know, Taylor right now, you know, I'm pretty sure Skylar Taylor came down the pit lane. I could be wrong. Trying to find the 45. Actually, I don't think Taylor has come down the pit lane for GT Le Mans. And we're trying to see, you know, last time by was 113. So I think Taylor is still yet to come in. But meanwhile, here come the Le Mans leaders as Sampson elects to stay out. Vincent Jr. will come in. Same with Caleb Rose. And now Skylar Taylor will come in. But Riley Sampson looking for the mega cut. Trying to get back. We'll follow with Vincent Jr. in the 78. See what he does on the pit lane. Trying to get back down for the chat. Off the jack. 14.53. Caleb Rose with a little bit of a slow stop in the 5. Actually, it was a 14.33 second time for Caleb Rose. So a little faster. Rose, does he get run over coming off the pit lane? He does not, as Zachary Fitzwater coming in with the momentum. He's got the hot tires. But Riley Sampson right now, the only GT Le Mans car who has yet to pit, and you got to imagine he'll come down this time by. You know, I don't think he can afford to stay out any longer, and he will come down. Now, it'll be interesting to see where Sampson comes out compared to Mike Vincent Jr. He's also going to navigate around these cars coming in and out of the pit lane. It's a long way down to pit stall number 1 for Sampson. Trying to find Vincent Jr. He's on the back straightaway. Sampson just now coming into his stall. Junior coming through the sweeper. This is going to be close. Finally putting the right side tires around. A little bit of a slow stop. Junior is off turn 14. Sampson will come out, and we completely missed that, as Mike Vincent Jr. will come out in the race lead. Zachary Fitzwater will come out in third. I lost track of the 78, and it turns out he is in the race lead, and Mike Vincent Jr. back to where he was before the cycle started. And with 20 laps to go, this is where the race kicks off. Riley does have 1 lap fresher tires, and he's not too far off from the 78. He's still within a legitimate distance. He's about 5 seconds away. Still having to warm up the rubber there. But how about Zachary Fitzwater? Doing a pretty severe undercut in the 62. And he's going to be in contention for this podium. But it is Vincent Jr. leading for Le Mans. Riley Sampson in second. He might come under fire from Zachary Fitzwater. We go back to Daytona, where it is still Connor Monaco in that 021, a 7-second lead over, no, it's still a 3-second lead over Tatiana Nagora, who is under fire from the GT Daytona pole sitter of Daniel Bouchard. Daytona really hasn't swapped the lead around too much, as Bouchard and Nagora get a little physical going through the kink. Brown back down the pit lane. And right now it is smooth sailing in front of Mike Vincent Jr. No Daytonas in sight aside from Igor Barreto, but he'll probably catch Barreto in about 10 laps or so. So the battle for second is on right now. Riley Sampson, who is being hounded right now by Zachary Fitzwater. Fitzwater, right now, the fastest car on the track. It's going to have a boatload of momentum on that 36 coming out of turn 14. We'll see what the damage is between Vincent Jr. And it is only a 4-second lead, so not nearly as bad as I thought. So still plenty of time for Riley Sampson to make up that ground. But now Vincent Jr. has finally got Voiles as a pick. We'll see what he's able to do here. So we have under 20 laps to go from Willow Springs, as Vincent Jr. now catches up to Roberto Crown Jr., but I think he might catch up to the 14 of Igor Barreto, who had a wheel issue. Second race in a row, Barreto's had a wheel issue in that 14. They might want to check and see if all the wheels are straight on that Valvoline Cobra. As Fogelman will come down the pit lane once again, and Fogelman, he might be an issue for Vincent Jr. coming out. No, I think Vincent Jr. will beat him out of the pit lane. Oh, Fitzwater taking a huge hack at that second spot as Riley Sampson lost all sorts of time. At the stripe, it is now a 4-second lead as Vincent Jr. is just barely able to get around that 0-6. Mike Vincent Jr. trying to be the first multi-series winner this season. Again, he won the whatever it's called, the Superflow Showdown at Levi Strauss, fighting off a last lap charge from Jim Vincent-Leff. And now he's in the catbird seat to win here today. He's just got to get around 2, maybe 3 more cars if he's able to catch John Andrews in the next 17 laps. But Riley Sampson, the team making the wrong adjustment on that pit stop, and he is now under fire from the man, the myth, the offline legend himself of Zachary Fitzwater, and he is going to lose more and more time. That 78 car is on rails right now. At the stripe. It was 4:15 last time by. Sampson will close in by 0.04 of a second, but that is not nearly going to be enough. Riley's only hope right now is Vincent Jr. runs into trouble with lap traffic. Barreto might be an issue, and Crown Jr. has been really in the sticks or just off the pace all day today. But I imagine Vincent Jr. will be able to get around the 33. I don't know about the 14. And I think the way John Andrews is running right now, he should catch up to Andrews. In fact, he might be able to catch up to the rest of this Daytona crowd by the end of this race. And meanwhile, Connor Monaco taking advantage of Michael Brown as a pick. And Monaco setting sail in that 21. Continues to have a 3-second lead over the 08. But Michael Brown is going to extend that lead for GT Daytona. This could finally be the day that Connor Brown goes to Gatorade Victory Lane. But we thought he was a shoo-in last month at Daytona. Was caught up with lap traffic. Doesn't look like he is going to run into any lap traffic, as Josh Harmon is quite a ways in front of him. But both those cars on equal ratings. And Harmon not having any incident. But back up front for Lamar, it is Vincent Jr. closing in on Crown Jr., the only Toyota in this field. Trying to make a statement win for Toyota, but today is not going to be today. Today is not going to be the day, as he is about less than a second in front of that 78 machine. It's inevitable that Vincent Jr. will get around him. It's a 4.5 second advantage between Vincent Jr. and Riley Sampson. Whatever the team did on the pit stop, they absolutely nailed the numbers. And that time by still exactly a 4.5 second lead, or 4.25 second lead for Vincent Jr. Not what he would quite like, but still a sizable lead for the driver of the 78. Zachary Fitzwater now a half second away from Riley Sampson. But again, lap traffic could come into play. We have seen that all race long, especially in the beginning stages. And Vincent Jr. is definitely going to have to navigate through a couple of slow Daytona cars. I think Rodriguez might be the last Daytona car that Vincent Jr. will have to get around. You know, he's running about 2 seconds faster than them. The fastest lap is 1:12, and then it's 1:13, so about a second faster than everybody else, so gaining about a second on everybody. Junior, he's catching up to the 33. He'll catch up to the 14. Everybody else is already a lap down, so we don't know the exact intervals. But I imagine, you know, given their distance on the racetrack, I think it should be Griffin Lynn who will be the last car to be put a lap down in GT Le Mans. But before we go see Daniel Bouchard, who was putting the Herden on that 21 car, he has closed it to a second gap over Connor Monaco. We'll go to that in 1 second. Actually, we'll flip to that right now. Bouchard finding some extra pep in that 8 machine. Turn that Coca-Cola Zero car into a Coca-Cola car. In a Coca-Cola bottle rocket. At the stripe, it is still a second and a half, actually, as here we go for the Le Mans lead. Still a 2-car gap between Vincent Jr. and Sampson, trying to make it a 4-car gap. He'll get around Crown Jr. Now, can he get around Barretto? That is the question. Crown Jr. fighting hard on that inside lane. Again, these lap down cars pulling a Robbie Gordon's here. Sampson was able to close in 0.3 of a second, but that is pennies where he needs to have dollars. Junior to the inside of Barretto, 3 wide, going into the kink. Barretto was split 3 wide, but I think it is going to be good. No. Crown Jr. with a run on the outside, but the 78 is faster. And Mike Vincent Jr. to the inside. He's got the preferred line going through the sweeper. 2 lap cars down. And now it's a 4-car pick between himself and Riley Sampson. Next up to be lapped will be John Andrews, then Dylan Matthews. Again, we saw Dylan Matthews get into, or factored into, the Daytona race last month, taking out Jaden Russell. And we'll finally get up to the battle for GT Daytona. Still a 1.5 lead for Connor Monaco over the 8 of Daniel Bouchard. But coming around, 10 laps to go next time by. And right now, this is Mike Vincent Jr.'s race to lose at this point. It's 4 lap down cars between the 78 and the 36, but, you know, given the shenanigans that Riley Sampson has had, you know, he had a good first start to the race, but then Mike Vincent Jr. really started to lock it in, and this last leg of the race, he has been on it like Blue Bonnet, putting down lap time after lap time. Riley Sampson still has the fastest lap, but that it's only worth 5 bonus points. And I think Vincent Jr. is going to have the most laps led bonus as well. So this will shake up the point standings, no doubt, especially given the trouble that Ribbleton. I can tell you, Fogelman, Ribbleton, there's too many tons in the NASRN. I can never keep them straight, not even in the WASP, and we're 9 races down in that. But cruising around, next time by will be 10 laps to go in the Napa, California Grand Prix from Willow Springs. And the battle for Daytona now starting to heat up. Monaco under fire from Daniel Bouchard. This time by Monaco is only 0.3 of a second in front of Daniel Bouchard. And the 8 car is starting to come alive for GT Daytona. We'll focus on this battle here as they go through the rabbit's ear. Heading back to the balcony corner. The rest of the leaders just coming out of the Castro corner and through the rabbit's ear themselves. Back up front, I tell you, Connor Monaco has just got really good corner speed, especially through that balcony corner. But straightaway speed-wise, that is where this 8 machine is going to really come to life. Both of these cars, they are Mustangs, but a slightly different Mustang, the Cobra. Here, and it would be fitting movie-wise for a Shelby Cobra, for a Ford Shelby Cobra to end up going to victory lane here at Willow Springs. You harken back to the movie that put Willow Springs back out on the map, Ford versus Ferrari. That's where I first heard of Willow Springs, this great racing facility in Rosamond, California. And for the Daytona lead, here comes Daniel Bouchard. He's to the inside of Connor Monaco, side by side, down the stretch, going through the balcony, and I think that 8 car is going to have it. He's going to slide up. He's going to get out of the groove just a little bit. Monaco trying to fight hard on that inside lane. But he is not going to get there. And it looks like it's going to be another second place finish for Connor Monaco if he cannot take this race lead back in GT Daytona. Meanwhile, Vincent Jr. has caught up with the rest of the Daytona crowd. Will follow along with the 21 as they go through the sweeper. Trying to stick his nose in there is Connor Monaco. He's not able to get an edge. And back in here, it continues to be lap traffic. And now, the 62 of Zachary Fitzwater trying to take second away from Riley Sampson with 8 laps to go in the NAPA California Grand Prix. Only 31 cars still on the track. 21 of them on the lead lap for right now. Fogelman, or Ribbleton, trying to get around Barretto. That's not really for any position. That's just going to hold up Caleb Rose from having a chance at this podium. And Vincent Jr. is able to get around John Andrews, add another pick between himself and Riley Sampson. And for the Daytona lead, it is Daniel Bouchard trying to set sail in the 8. Again, no lap traffic in front of them. Oh, sending it to the inside is Monaco trying to do the slide job. Not going to be able to get there, trying to get the run off the corner. But going through Castrol, it'll likely be... It is going to be the 8 who's got the advantage. No, Monaco with a counterattack to the inside. He'll have the preferred line going through the air. Can he make it stick? Can he slide up in front? He will. And Connor Monaco is back out to the point for Daytona. And I tell you, these guys are going to go down to the wire when it comes for this Daytona battle. Bouchard trying to stage a counterattack of his own. Through the balcony corner, into the kink as I go into Monroe Ridge for the 61st time today. This could bring in Tatiana Nagora as well in the 22. Meanwhile, Riley Sampson being held up by Daniel Voiles, and that'll bring in Zachary Fitzwater trying to take second away. But it's Monaco with the lead. And Daniel Bouchard really falling back in that 8 car. Can he surmount another attack on this 21? Time is running out. And time is running out for everybody else. But again, do they come down the pit lane? I don't think they do. Again, they should have the gas to make it to the end, because they came down at around lap 40. Came down at lap 43 to be specific. And with 5 laps to go next time by, they should be able to do a max of 30. So they should, big air quotes there, should be able to get to the end of this one. But again, I've been wrong before, especially when it comes to fuel mileage. But when it comes to lap down traffic, you know, that could take the 78 out of this race. And it could heat up the battle between Sampson and Fitzwater, because both these guys know anything could happen. GT Daytona is the ultimate wild card in racing, especially since Michael Brown is going to be lapped down again in the 25. But this time around, 5 laps to go as Brown nearly got hooked there by Rodriguez in the attenuator. 5 laps to go from Willow Springs for Mike Vincent Jr. in the 78 car. The dominant car of the entire afternoon, has led the most laps, has the second fastest lap, but not quite the fastest. That one belongs to Riley Sampson, who has closed in to a 3.5 second deficit. But he has got to pray that this 78 runs into lap traffic trouble. Meanwhile, the battle for GT Daytona reigniting. And this time, Nagora could make this a 3-car battle for the Daytona lead. Just like Daytona, these 2 battles for either class, thankfully being right next to one another. So we are past we're past the hour mark through this race, nearly at the hour-and-a-half point. Vincent Jr. catches up. Meanwhile, here comes the 8 on the 21. If these guys tangle, that'll open the door for Nagora. To the inside of Castrol. 4 to go for everybody else, but it's 5 to go for the GT Daytona cars. They'll have an extra lap, and here comes Bouchard to the inside. Daniel Bouchard to the inside of Connor Monaco. He'll have the preferred line going through the balcony. These guys going side by side. Will parachute each other enough for Nagora to keep up with it. Catch up to them, I should say. Oh, Bouchard goes up the hill. Monaco's got to go the long way around, and Bouchard will get around as these two swap the position of first like a couple of brokers trading a blue chip stock. Navigating lap traffic is Mike Vincent Jr. 3 to go for them for GT Le Mans next time by. 4 to go for GT Daytona this time by. Can Bouchard hold on? Can Monaco stage a counter attack? I think these guys are just about even. When it comes to being able to draft off of one another, that is where the race is going to be won. Meanwhile, 3 wide as Daniel Voiles nearly gets turned under the inside of Roberto Crown Jr. 3 to go for Le Mans. 4 to go for Daytona. I don't know if these Daytona cars are going to catch up to Josh Harmon. I don't imagine they will. Meanwhile, Vincent Jr. picking up the lap down cars one at a time, not being affected by them one bit. Sampson having a lot of trouble trying to navigate around, and that might be curtains unless Vincent Jr. gets swallowed up with a couple of lappers. Zachary Fitzwater trying to get around these lap down cars as well. It's a logjam going through the kink. Caleb Rose trying to take the final podium position away. But up front, 3 to go for GT Daytona. And that might be a little too wide of a lead for Daniel Bouchard for the 21 to conquer. For Le Mans, Popsicle 6 in the air, 2 laps to go from Willow Springs. And this is Mike Vincent's race to lose. He'll catch up to Griffin Lynn in the 1. And I think that'll be the last car he'll catch up to. It's 3 to go for GT Daytona. The deficit is about 0.8 of a second last time by. Does Connor Monaco have enough saved in the tank? And does the 78 catch up to these guys to help decide the winner for GT Le Mans or GT Daytona? Fitzwater having some trouble getting around the 98. The podium right now should be Vincent Jr., Sampson, and Fitzwater. Right now, I think that lead might be a little too much for the 8 car, for the 21 to surpass. But for GT Le Mans, white flag in the air one more time around the Willow Springs International Raceway for Mike Vincent Jr. Doesn't even really need to pass the 1 car. He's got a 5-second lead over Riley Sampson. He has just got to run a clean lap. Cannot get tangled up in anything. Meanwhile, it might be curtains for GT Daytona. Vincent Jr. coming hard on that 1 car. You don't need to be aggressive if you're Mike Vincent Jr. You just need to run this race out. He gets past Griffin Lynn. So it'll be a 3-car battle for this Daytona lead, but Bouchard may have all but won it. Now if you're Nagora, you don't want to be passed there by Vincent Jr. because you won't be able to race for this GT Daytona win. I don't think that she'll be passed, but coming off turns 13 and 14, the dominant car of the entire afternoon, the man who has been running on rails throughout the majority of the race, checkered flag in the air, Mike Vincent Jr. wins GT Le Mans here at Willow Springs. Second and third to Sampson and Zachary Fitzwater. But the battle is still on for GT Daytona. I don't know if Connor Monaco is going to be able to get it. It might be another second place finish. It'll give Connor the points lead. Going into Papyrus, a wild card of a track. But for the second race in a row, it looks like it's going to be another second place finish for Connor Monaco. But Daniel Bouchard looking to be the first ever winner in multiple classes. He's won the Daytona 2.4 before, and coming around turns 13 and 14, barring an incident. I don't think he's going to have any. Off the final corner, Daniel Bouchard, the Canadian, will go to Gatorade Victory Lane for GT Daytona, coming to the stripe. Daniel Bouchard, from pole position to the finish line, wins GT Daytona. And a fantastic win for everybody here today. A fantastic race for everybody here today is Mike Vincent Jr. going to victory lane for GT Le Mans, and for GT Daytona, wire to wire, is Daniel Bouchard in the 15. Taking a look at your official race standings, Mike Vincent Jr., Riley Sampson, Zachary Fitzwater, your podium for GT Le Mans, Caleb Rose, Nathan Orman rounding out your top 5. And then your podium for GT Daytona, Daniel Bouchard, Connor Monaco, and Tatiana Nagora here today. As we look and see everybody that got knocked out of the race. 31 cars finished the race, 17 of them on the lead lap. And another great race here today, as we put race number 2 of the FlowMaster GT Championship in the books at Willow Springs. And a fantastic race nonetheless. A little bit of chaos in the early stages of this one, but a good last couple of laps battle there for GT Daytona. Mike Vincent Jr., domination is the name of the game. He leads the most laps, and a great race there for Mike Vincent Jr. in the 78. But that's going to do it here from the the Willow Springs International Raceway. It's so used to saying Daytona here for these Grand Touring cars, but after Daytona, even after today, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that this series is here to stay. This Grand Touring racing here on the North American Sim Racing Network is elite. There is no other place to get it. The only endurance race for GT racing with a Trans Am mod here, right here on the North American Sim Racing Network. But that'll do it here from the Willow Springs International Raceway. Congratulations to both Mike Vincent Jr. and Daniel Bouchard for their wins in their respective classes here in the NAPA California Grand Prix. And 2 races are in the books. 10 races to go, and we will see you in another month, almost exactly 1 month to the day, a couple of days before St. Patrick's Day, for the Duncan New England Grand Prix from Papyrus on March 15th, Friday, March 15th. Time to be determined, probably going to be at noon Eastern time, for a 79-lap race around Papyrus. Pray for my computer. I have no idea how it's going to go. But after Papyrus, we've got Denver in April, Mexico City on Cinco de Mayo, Mosport for Canada Day, Watkins Glen right after that, Old Spice, the Thornton 13, Bridgehampton, Barber, and finally Riverside on Christmas Day to round out the year. But this series, I tell you, like, if it wasn't a pain in the neck to record every race individually like this, I would love to do this, but these hour-long races, they're not a weekly thing. I feel like it's a good thing to have it monthly, but I've been rambling on for the last hour and a half. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's coverage of the NAPA California Grand Prix for the 2024 season of the FlowMaster GT Championship. That's all I've got. Thanks again for tuning in. Congratulations again to Mike Vincent Jr. and Daniel Bouchard. Here are your point standings after race number 2 of the 2024 season of the FMGTC. And from Rosamond, California, my name is Trey Wright. Have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen.